Welcome. So this week we're going to talk about Parshas Haazinu and a little bit about the Sukkos. So the Parsha starts like this. Moshe says, Haazinu Hashemayim v'dabeira Yarav kamoto likchi. So Rashi says like this. Haazinu Hashemayim v'dabeira shani masrem b'Yisrael. So Moshe is speaking not to the Klal Yisrael, he's speaking to the Shemayim. And he's telling the Shemayim, listen, and what does he want? V'tiyuatem edim b'dover. I'm speaking to the Shemayim, I'm appointing you to be witnesses. Chacham, so what are the witnesses? Chacham marti lehem. She'atem tiyu edim, v'chein v'tishma haaretz. V'lo mehed ben Shemayim v'aretz. Why did he need the edus of Shemayim v'aretz? So Moshe said, Ani basav adam. I'm I'm a mortal person. L'machar ani meis, I'm going to die. Im yom Yisrael, like kabalnu leinu abris, mi bo makisham, who's going to be makish them? Ficha cheid ben Shemayim v'aretz. Edim shen kayom l'oilam. Now, Yarav kamoto likchi, Rashi says, Shan yomer b'fneichem torish nesat Yisrael chaim l'oilam, kamoto razeh shu chaim l'oilam. So the edus is that they reign. The edus is that the Shemayim reigns. Now, back in Parshas V'eschanon, it says over there, Kisol bonim b'vnei vana v'leishanta b'oretz v'yishchata v'asisim pesel tmuna v'asisim rabbeini Hashem haydoisi b'chem hayoim es haShemayim v'es ha'oretz kiyofet teveidun. I'm appointing the Shemayim v'oretz to be edim that you will be destroyed. So Rashi says, Hineni mazminam liyazeitim shasrisi b'chem. So I'm calling on the Shemayim to be edus that I warned you. So he's talking to the Klal Yisrael. He's not talking to the Shemayim. He's talking to Klal Yisrael. And over here, he's talking to Shemayim. And over here, he says to the Motor. And over here, there's no mention of the Motor. Just the Shemayim. So the chiluk is that over there, the edus, and why doesn't he ask over there the question? Why didn't he need edim? Why do you have to have, like he says over here, Lo mehed ben Shemayim v'oretz? Why doesn't he ask over here? Lo mehed ben Shemayim v'oretz. Tomorrow I'm going to die. None of that is over there. Just that Abed Asra. So over there, the edus Shemayim v'oretz was not really that the Shemayim v'oretz had to come and say edus. They were, like Ibn Ezra says over there, they were a symbol. Like you say, however Nazeh should be a symbol. This is by Yaakov Yosef, I think, that they made a pact, and this Evan is the symbol. The Evan is not going to do anything, not going to say anything, but the pact has a physical symbol that will always remind you of the pact. So there also, Moshe warned them, and the Shemayim v'aretz should be the symbol, the physical symbol that will remind you Hisreisi b'chem, that I warned you. That's what's over here. But there's no edus. Over here there is edus. What's over here? Over here, what's going to happen? Moshe is going to die. They're going to say, well, we're not makabel the Torah. What does it mean you aren't makabel the Torah? I mean, we know that there was kabbalas HaTorah. How are you going to say, and if you're going to deny it, so what's the chiluk if Moshe dies? So this goes to something we've spoken a number of times, that the idea of a klal, that I'm making a bris with the ones who are here, the ones that are going to come later. That means that the bris is with the klal, and the klal obligates all the future dairas, because they're all part of the same klal. Because einat tzibur meisim, the individuals come and go, their cells are the body of the klal, but the klal is the same klal. That's what it is. So over here, Moshe is we've spoken about this a number of times, different parshas. It's a very important yesod. It has to do with many things. It has to do with responsibility, has to do with obligation, has to do with memory, has to do with many things. So over here, Moshe was afraid that they're going to come and they're going to say that we're not obligated to the bris. They're not going to deny Matan Torah. If I knew there was Matan Torah, it's not going to be forgotten so fast. Then they're just going to deny that they are obligated to it. That's what they're going to say. Yeah, the people who were there were makabel. They're obligated. We're new people. We're not obligated. That's what he's worried about. So he said the Shemayim v'Oretz should be the Eidos. How? Because the Shemayim v'Oretz, they always rain. They always rain. Once it's established that the sky rains, it doesn't change. The same thing if it's established that there's a bris between the Klal Yisrael and the Rebbeinu Shloim, that you makabel the Torah, then the Torah is Chai L'Olam, it's always there. That's how the Shemayim v'Oretz is Eidos on the Kabbalah HaTorah. Now, we know, let me close this. Sukkos is called Zman Simchaseinu. The question is, why is it called Zman Simchaseinu? So some Mefarshim want to say that it's really agricultural, because that's when you have your harvest, and also comes after Yom Kippur, so you're moichel on the Averis, so now you have no Averis anymore, you have a new slate. So that's why it's called Zman Simchaseinu. But the question is that you have three regalim. For Pesach we say Zman Chereseinu because it was a seminal event in the history of Klal Yisrael. Shavuos is Zman Matan Tereseinu. That's when we got the Torah, an important event. Sukkos, that it doesn't match the other two. Sukkos is Zman Simchaseinu because we have harvest, because we know Averis, it's all good and well. But how does it rise to the level of the other two? How does it fit into that set? It's one question. And another question, which Mefarshim ask, is that Sukkos is Keneged Danan Yaakov. So why Danan Yaakov? I mean, there were many Nisim. There was Amman, there was Beresh Miriam. Why do we commemorate the Danan Yaakov more than other things? So I'd like to say like this: that what is simcha? What is simcha? What is the definition of simcha? Simcha means that when a person has a lack, has some kind of a void, and when that void is filled, then you're happy. Because simcha, I think Maral says this, that simcha comes from shleimus. When a person feels that he's completed, he's whole, then a person is simcha. That's the feeling of simcha. Simcha comes from shleimus. You're not missing anything. That's when a person feels b'simcha. Even like when a person's actually making a simcha, so at that point, by the chasnos, you're marrying off a child, so even though you have other things that you're missing, but at that point, those things don't occupy a place in your mind. You owe money to this and this and whatever, you have your knee hurts. These things are all trivial right now. You're in this moment and you're marrying off the child, and at this moment you feel complete. You don't feel that you have any lack, and therefore you feel simcha. That's the idea of simcha. Now, the Sholosh Regalim commemorate the process by which the Rebbeinu Shloim created Klal Yisrael. Before they went into Eretz Yisrael. Once they went into Eretz Yisrael, then you have regular life. Then they were busy with their farms and their businesses and whatever they were busy with. But before they started that, before they went to Eretz Yisrael, there had to be a process that would make them into Bnei Torah, make them into Klal Yisrael, make them who they are, to merge them with the Torah. That's what needed to be done. That Yisrael v'Raisa Kuchabricha Chadu, that Klal Yisrael and the Torah are merged together. They're one. So what was the process? First step in the process was Shibud Mitzrayim. What happened in Shibud Mitzrayim was that Klal Yisrael was stripped down to being raw human beings. Everything they had, all their their possessions, their ideas, their egos, they were just basic people. They were just there. Everything was stripped down to being raw human beings. When they came to when it came to Matan Torah, they shouldn't come, come like prosperous Balabatim will come to Matan Torah, be Makabel the Torah. Then there's so much that we are, and the Torah would somehow have to fit into it, and it wouldn't be this organic connection between the Torah and the people being Makabel the Torah. So first of all, everything had to be stripped away. Stripped away, nothing. There's nothing there. You're avodim. You're penniless, and you have no classless, statusless, nothing. Raw human beings. That's what Pesach was. Chayroseinu, the Baruch Shloim, brought us to that matzav, and then he took us out with Nisim and the Floyas, and now we come to the Matan Torah. By Matan Torah, the Baruch Shloim gave us the Torah. So now when we took the Torah, there was nothing else there but the Torah. That's who we were. So we connected with the Torah at the most basic level. That's it. There was nothing else. But then we needed to learn the Torah before we went to Eretz Yisrael. We needed to spend time learning the Torah, absorbing it, getting to know it. That was the time that we spent at Har Sinai. And during that time, the whole of Klal Yisrael was living in a koilel, completely supported. There's nothing that they needed. They had the mun, they had the Beresh of Miriam, the clothing never rotted, their shoes never wore out, they were healthy, they were well, they had no dagas of parnasa, they had no dagas of brias, nothing. They were there, they were just completely worry-free, and they were able to sit there and learn Torah without any kind of problems and concerns. That was simcha. They were b'shleimus. They were able to sit and learn with a feeling of shleimus. We're not lacking anything. And in that condition, with having shleimus, and they learned Torah for how long? Well, they were supposed to learn for like 2 years. They ended up staying in Koil much longer. But that was the process. That was the third step in the process that was necessary to create this unbreakable bond between Klal Yisrael and the Torah. So when they came into Eretz Yisrael, and they had to be busy with all kinds of things, but the connection of the Torah was at the root of everything. The foundation of what Klal Yisrael was Yisrael Vayraisa. The Torah and Klal Yisrael were one. So that is the idea of Zman Simchaseinu. This was the third step. Zman Chereseinu, to bring us down to basic people and take us out. Matan Tereseinu, and Zman Simchaseinu. And that's why we talk about the Nana Yaakov. That's why we want to be symbolize the Sukkah, the Nana Yaakov. It's not the ness of the Nana Yaakov. It's the situation of the Nana Yaakov. We were sitting in the Nana Yaakov during those years, and we were completely protected and completely without any kind of needs and any kind of concerns. That was the Zman Simchaseinu. That there was a supernatural thing, the Nana Yaakov. That's not what we're coming to memorialize, that it was supernatural. We're just coming to talk about that period of time when we were able to learn and to get to know the Torah and to connect to it on the very deepest levels. Now, the Gemara says in Saita like that, in Sukkah, Simchas Beis HaSheiva. So there's two Gersois in the Mishnah. And one Mandama says, the Gemara says, Sheiva, one Mandama says Chashuva, different Gersois. And they're both right. Mandama Sheiva, Loi Mishtavish. So Taisus brings Yerushalmi. B'Shalmi Mefarish, why is it called Sheiva? Shemishah Mishrayev B'Ruach HaKodesh. From the Simcha, there was such a Simcha, and that Simcha of Beis HaSheva, when everybody was dancing and happy and the music, then that Simcha, Hashchina Shoyre Mitoich Simcha. Ruach HaKodesh is the Shchina, and you need to be besimcha. That Elisha wanted to be Mekabel Nevuah, so he had musicians play for him, and then he came into a proper state of mind. He was besimcha, and he was able to be Mekabel Nevuah. Simchas Beis Sheva Sharsa Olav Shechina. Yeah. So now this is also a Gemara. Another Gemara in Shabbos. Gemara in Shabbos says like this: Ein Shechina Shoira, Loi mitoich atzvus, not from depression, V'loi mitoich atzlus, not from laziness, V'loi mitoich schaik, not from hilarity, V'loi mitoich kalas roish, V'loi mitoich sicha, not from conversations, V'loi mitoich dvarim b'telim, Ela mitoich dvar mitzvah, dvar simcha shal mitzvah. You need simcha shal mitzvah. So we understand that simcha is a prerequisite for Ruach HaKodesh. So the Gemara has to tell us what kind of simcha. What kind of simcha? So only simcha shal mitzvah. That's the simcha. So now, what's the idea of that? Shechina shoyram teich simcha shal mitzvah. What is the idea? What does simcha have to do with Ruach HaKodesh? So I think, as we were speaking before, simcha is shleimus. A person has to feel shleimus, and therefore, then he can be makabel, then he can makabel the Shechina, can be Ruach HaKodesh. You don't get Ruach HaKodesh when you're pogum, when you're not shalom. You have to feel shalom. Simcha makes you feel shalom. Why do people need to be happy? Everybody wants to be happy. Like the founding fathers had this ha'oram and hashemayim to write the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, which was definitely a special ha'ora to do a document like that, which is so full of chacham, which has withstood the test of time. And in there, in the Declaration of Independence, talk about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's how they define what is everything about. You want to be alive, you want to be free, and you want to be free to pursue happiness. So why do people have to pursue happiness? You could, a pursuit of comfort, of wealth, of health. Why? What's happiness? And you see, it's the pursuit. It's not life, liberty, and happiness. It's the pursuit. Because the person is always pursuing happiness. You think that I'm going to build myself this tremendous house, and that's going to make me happy. So you build a house, and maybe for a while you're happy, but then you're not happy anymore. You're not getting happiness from it. So okay, I'll get an imported Italian car. That's going to make me happy. Okay, so for a while it makes you happy, but then it doesn't make you happy anymore. So what's the next thing that you're going to do? You're always pursuing happiness. That's correct, it's pursuing happiness. A person is always pursuing happiness. Why does he need happiness, and why can't he find happiness? The Torah says because simcha, happiness, comes from shleimus. And the neshama of a person wants shleimus. The neshama wants to be shalom. It wants to connect to the Olam Elyon, and to connect to the Olam Elyon, you have to be shalom. So it wants shleimus. And the people think that if you feel simcha, that means that shukah for simcha, that's what they're feeling. So they're looking for over here, they're looking for over there, and none of these are real. They don't really give you simcha. They're not real. The only thing that gives you simcha is simcha shel mitzvah. You do mitzvahs, you learn Torah. That is really solid simcha. That and Shechina is shoyra mitoich simcha shel mitzvah. But you have to understand what he says over here. So he's telling us a number of things. Lo mitoich chayik, lo mitoich kalas roish. Maybe if you're having fun and you're jumping around and you're having parties, so that makes a person happy. So the Gemara tells us that happiness is not real. That's not the happiness that's going to bring you to Hashros HaShechina, to Ruach HaKodesh. Okay, I understand that. It has to tell us, this happiness yet, this happiness not. But what's the first thing he says? Why would I think that depression leads to Hashros HaShechina? Why would I think that lassitude, that just sitting around doing nothing, leads to Hashros HaShechina? Why would I think that? Why? Why does the Gemara have to tell us this? The things that are fun, okay, so they're fun and they make me happy, at least temporarily they make me happy. So I may think that maybe that will be enough of a basis for Hashros HaShechina. But I'm not talking Davar Aser, no Davar Aser. But you're having a party, you're singing and dancing, maybe that will bring you, that happiness will bring to Hashros HaShechina. The Gemara tells us no. That happiness is not, it's not lasting, it's not real. It has to be Simcha Shel Mitzvah. But why do you have to tell us about depression and about laziness that it doesn't bring to it? So I think the pshat is like this, that in order to have Ruach HaKodesh, the neshama basically is capable of having Ruach HaKodesh. The problem with having Ruach HaKodesh, you see that the Tinnik Ner Dolak HaRoisha, he sees Mesoif Oilam At Soifai, he could see that's Ruach HaKodesh. The neshama could see Mesoif Oilam Vat Soifai. But once the body is activated, then the body prevents the neshama from seeing what it's about with its capabilities. And a person is morkiv from a neshama and a guf. So in order to have Ruach HaKodesh, the neshama has to be mizgaber on the guf. The neshama has to dominate the guf, and therefore, and then you can be mekabel Ruach HaKodesh. So if you have Simcha Shel Mitzvah will elevate the neshama at the not by everybody, but by the people that are on that madrega. Simcha Shel Mitzvah will bring the neshama to a higher madrega, and it will dominate over the guf. And then the neshama will be dominant. The guf will be, subsidiary, subordinate to the neshama. Then you have Ruach HaKodesh. So I might think that there's two ways that the neshama could dominate over the guf. One way is by elevating the neshama through Simcha Shel Mitzvah. The other way is by lowering the guf through depression and lassitude. Where a person is depressed, he just lies in bed, he can't do anything. The body basically becomes inactive by a depressed person. He can't get out of bed, he just sits around, he's not active. And the person who's lazy just sits around doing nothing. So the body becomes deactivated. So I might think that if the body becomes deactivated, then the neshama becomes dominant by default. So this is another way to get that the neshama should be dominant over the body. So the Gemara tells you, no, this doesn't work. The only way that you can come to Hashros HaShechina, Ruach HaKodesh, is only through Simcha Shel Mitzvah, which elevates the neshama. Thank you very much, and B'yas Hashem, the next day or so, we're going to do Zayis HaBracha.